Hey folks, Dr. Gerstmar here at Aspire Natural Health. I've got another interesting study I wanted to share with you all. As you can see, a little bit of sunshine peeking through. So here in Seattle, we are very happy with our summer-like weather. So an interesting study for you guys. Look, if you've been anywhere around the alternative or natural or integrative health space, you've heard this term adrenal fatigue, right? That's where, for whatever reason, your adrenals aren't quite up to snuff. This one of those main hormones called cortisol isn't quite doing its job, and look, you're just plain out tired, right? Now, there's been a lot of back and forth about this. Is it real? Is it really adrenals, or is it the brain? What's actually going on here? So, bottom line is this: when it comes to adrenal fatigue, whether it is a real disease, as in something that the MDs can test and find, we find that taking steps to address it often brings people measurable and significant results. Look, one of the issues is the stress response. So the stress response is completely normal and natural. If we don't have it, we would be dead. Okay? So there is an extreme state of adrenal fatigue called Addison's disease, an autoimmune disease where the adrenals are destroyed. The person can no longer make cortisol, and unless they get cortisol replacement, they will die, right? Now, 99% of the time, we're talking about something less significant, but it's important to understand what this stress response is. So, this stress response powers us up, right? Enables our body to fight off or run away from stuff. Now, whether that occurs at a tiny cellular level or at the entire organism, that's what this is all about. It's important to recognize that the stress we face today is very, very different from the stress that we evolved with, that our ancestors grew up with, right? The stress they had was mostly infrequent and it was severe, right? Either you're starving because you've got nothing to eat, something is chasing you, they want to eat you, or you're chasing something else trying to get it, right? Those are what most of the stresses that people had to deal with back then revolved around, which meant that it was pretty extreme, right? Quite a lot of stress, but that it only lasted for a relatively short period of time. Because if you don't get food for long enough, you aren't going to make it. If something's chasing you, that's either going to be over pretty quick. And the same, if you're chasing something else, typically you're going to catch it or you're not. Okay? And then what we found that these hunter gatherers, most of their lives are pretty chill, right? They don't have a lot of stress. They're not worrying about things like mortgages. They're not worrying about commuting, bosses, right? Lots of laws, paying their taxes, all that kind of stuff. Childcare usually kind of split among the whole group of people, so not quite as stressful as what we're dealing with these days. So they had mostly a low level of stress, punctuated occasionally by really high spikes of stress. And look, the human body, the animal body is really good at dealing with that, right? These high stresses, and then you'll see, animals, they'll have a life or death experience, right? Huge stressor, and then it ends, and they kind of shake it all out, and then they basically just move on with their day, right? When the system's working right, that's what it's designed to do. However, our lifestyles are basically the complete opposite of that. Most of us, most of the time, don't get those big spikes of stress. We're not kind of in life or death or really hardcore situations most of the time, if not at least, right? And most of the time, we're under chronic lower grade stress, right? All those things, mortgages, bosses, kids, work deadlines, emails, all that stuff combined to hit us over and over and over again with a chronic low level of stress. So we never get that spike, and more importantly, we never get that reset either most of the time. So we're dealing with a stress situation that our bodies were never designed to handle, right? And fundamentally, that's why we have so much adrenal fatigue, adrenal dysfunction going on for people. So we talk about things like, hey, appropriate exercise, especially talk about enough sleep, right? Stress management techniques, whether that's meditation or yoga or whatever floats your boat, right, to help reset and get your nervous system down. I recently went for a float session, which is going in one of those sensory deprivation tanks for an hour. In first time trying it, neat experience, incredibly relaxing after a little while. You go in first, you realize, man, I'm holding a lot of tension physically, have to relax and release. Then your mind is running, running, running. You're realizing, wow, I got like tons of mental stuff going on. And then after a while, finally, that calms down too. Incredibly calming, relaxing. But most of us, we can't do that regularly, or we don't make the time for stress reduction, right? Time to deload the system and let it recover. Okay, so when we talk about healing adrenal fatigue, and I'm off on kind of a tangent here, folks, but I hope this is helpful for you guys. That is a huge part of it. We also talk about these things called adaptogenic herbs, things like ashwagandha, rhodiola, ginseng, holy basil, that kind of thing. Those are incredibly helpful. Some of my favorite herbs, right? But fundamentally, it's about lifestyle. Now, I want to finally bring in that study that I mentioned here. So, an interesting study has said, look, there's a lot about stress that we can control, right? But this adrenal fatigue stuff, there's also a component that we may just not be able to control. So a cool new study just recently came out. Its name is a mouthful. It is Postnatal Microbial Colonization Programs the Hypothalamic Pituitary Adrenal System for Stress Response in Mice. So let's break down that title real quick. It is in mice, okay? So as we say frequently, mice are not, fuzzy little humans. Having said that, both the bacteria that live on and in us and the stress response system are incredibly ancient. So it is very likely that as we think about this, that what we're seeing here in mice, it's very likely that it's also very applicable to humans. So let's break down that title a little bit. Postnatal, that means after birth, microbial colonization. So the after a child is born, getting those bacteria, getting them started and getting them colonized, programs, right? So helps determine the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal system. Also, if you've been doing any research, you've heard it called the HPA axis. Hypothalamus and pituitary are two parts of your brain. Adrenals are the adrenals. So the brain adrenal system, the brain adrenal connection for stress response. So the bacteria that we receive, or that mice in this case receive after they're born, help program the brain adrenal system and that stress response. And so what did this study find? Okay, so they broke mice into a couple of different groups. One group was germ-free. They're raised in special little, sterilized cages. They get no bacteria whatsoever, right? The second was a group that was given a pathogenic or bad bacteria, a type of E. coli, not real good for the system. The third had normal bacteria. So they took these mice, right, and they stressed them out. They put them in restraints so they couldn't move, not super nice, but obviously a big stressor to the mice, right? And what did they find happened? Okay, so the group that had normal bacteria had a normal stress response. The group that had no bacteria had an enhanced stress response. That is, they were more stressed out by the same amount of stress than the group that had the normal bacteria. And the group that had the bad bacteria, the pathogenic bacteria, were even more stressed out. So we have normal stress response, no bacteria, worse stress response, bad bacteria, even worse stress response, right? So what they found is, depending on what these little mice pups, what type of bacteria they had, including none at all, determined how major of a stress response they had. Okay, so here's where it gets even more interesting to me. So they found that this exaggerated stress response was reversed when they gave those germ-free mice, or those mice that had bad bacteria, good bacteria. So in this case, they used something called Bifidobacterium infantis, a type of bacteria that is very predominant in babies, especially if they've been breastfed. They gave it to them and they found that it got rid of that exaggerated stress response, right? So what do we find? Having good bacteria helps balance the system better. Not having those bacteria, or even worse, having bad bacteria, makes the system more out of whack, creates an exaggerated, overblown stress response, right? But even more critical than that was this finding. They found that the enhanced stress response was corrected when the mice were young and it was given at a young age. So when they gave that Bifidobacterium infantis at a young age, it fixed it. But here's the thing. If they waited longer and then gave the Bifidobacterium, they found that it didn't fix it, right? So this is kind of the little bit depressing, a little bit urgent here news that in development we seem to go through phases, right? So we have an epidemic in this country of C-sections. Now, C-sections are awesome. I'm glad they're there. They save mothers' lives. They save babies' lives. But the reality is many of them are completely unnecessary. They're done out of convenience for the doctor, convenience for the hospital, convenience for the staff, convenience for the mother, and frankly, because, let's be cynical, the hospital makes a whole lot more money. So I would say probably a good 80% of the C-sections that are done are truly not needed, and we really want to save them for the 20% where they absolutely save lives and save babies. So what happens, right? When a baby is born, it's pushed out through the vagina. As it is, it gets smeared all over with the mother's vaginal bacteria, right? And that's supposed to happen, and that is how a baby is supposed to get inoculated or started with its gut bacteria. Then breastfeeding is supposed to come into play to nourish and grow a healthy gut flora, right? What we see happen instead so often is either mom's on antibiotics, wiping out her gut flora, or a C-section is done, and instead of getting those vaginal fluids, those vaginal bacteria, baby instead picks up skin bacteria, right? Either from the mom's abdomen, the mom's hands, the hands of the staff or other family members or whoever's touching it. Often they're getting inoculated with the bacteria from the skin, which is very different from the bacteria that live in the digestive tract and the vaginal canal, right? Very different gut flora. Then often, of course, those babies are getting antibiotics because of concerns what's going on. And often, unfortunately, women are not supported, they're not educated, they're not told about, or it's not that they're just not told about the importance of breastfeeding. It's really not, they're not helped to do it, right? So the unfortunate reality is many babies are not breastfed. So it's like basically a triple whammy, right? If you're not born vaginally from a mom who has good gut flora, if you're then not breastfed for a while, and if you're then given antibiotics, it's like a triple whammy. You're not getting these good gut flora early in life. And we're finding now, in addition to everything else, that it seems that you might have missed a window to help successfully program your brain adrenal axis. So for some of us with adrenal issues, could it have been this early childhood, this early infancy, rather even before childhood, period that set us up to have lifelong adrenal issues? It certainly seems possible. Now, I'm an optimist. I'm always hoping that we can fix these things, right? I always hold it out there, but the data is saying maybe we can, maybe we can't, right? So when we look at some of these health concerns, adrenal issues, gut dysfunction, autoimmune diseases, things I deal with on an everyday basis, what we seem to run into in some people is we get it about as good as it can go, and then we can't seem to get it any better, right? Our hope is that I just don't know enough, or my tools aren't good enough yet, and if we just learn more and get better tools, we can take people the rest of the way, right? And I'm keeping my fingers crossed and hoping that's true. And in some of these cases, I believe it is. But is it possible through this early life programming that we miss, right, whether it's from epigenetics or bacteria or other factors, that windows close, and at best then we're left managing dysfunctions instead of truly and completely curing them? It is possible. So guys, I remain optimistic and hopeful always for everyone. But this underscores the critical importance of preconception care for both moms and dads. Listen, most of the blame falls on moms, and that's unfair. Dads need to play their part too. But this, with the bacteria, just underscores the importance of having a good, healthy vaginal flora, right? Being healthy so that you can deliver vaginally without complications, without needing antibiotics. Now, look, nothing ever goes perfect, but we want to maximize our chances, right? And then we want to be educated and supported and get help for moms to breastfeed for as long as possible. If the World Health Organization, right, says up to 2 years, which almost no one does, but at least a solid 3 months, right? Preferably 6 months, preferably a year. But we work with and we do what we can, okay? Because we're finding critically when it comes to bacteria here that there seem to be some developmental windows and we really don't want to miss them. All right, guys? So, interesting study. Could early childhood bacterial exposure come back and affect us as adults with things like adrenal fatigue, adrenal dysfunction? The case seems to be absolutely, right? Hope you found this useful. We can help you out. Please contact us. We're here. You can reach us at www.aspirenaturalhealth.com and at facebook.com/aspirenaturalhealth. So if you're dealing with a gut dysfunction, autoimmune disease, or other difficult to treat case and you'd like to get our expertise, our knowledge, and our systems, help you recover and get healthy again, please contact us. Until next time, take care.